Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chalavec Movies. My name is John and today I'm going to give my final thoughts on the 4K of A Clockwork Orange. So I'll link down below my previous unboxing of this edition and you can see what's exactly inside it. So I'd urge you to get across to there if you don't exactly know what you're going to get in here. And I mistakenly said in that video that it was an HMV exclusive. It's not an HMV exclusive. Funny enough, when I was trying to get the Zavvi exclusive, this one popped up from HMV and it sort of looked as if they were going to do their version of the same release. But anyway, it's like a standard limited edition. I don't know if it's still in print, if I'm honest, but if it is, I urge anybody to get this. So I watched this the other night and I've got to say I was blown away by it. Now, a lot of people are saying it's not the best 4K you'll see. Now, I have to disagree on that point. I think this is the best 4K of A Clockwork Orange that you'll ever get, and I'll tell you why. Now, what I've done is I went to my previous DVDs and Blu-rays and had a good look through them to see what I thought of them before I looked at this. And what I've ascertained from that is that I feel that this movie has always looked a certain way. It's always looked a little bit cold. It's always looked a little bit not bright and not super colourful, but I think that's the way that Stanley Kubrick intended it to be. Now, when a movie is shot a certain way and it has a certain colour palette, there's no way you would want that to be changed drastically. Yes, they could have made the film warmer in post-production on the 4K remaster for this. So on this 4K, with the help of Leon Vitali, a close personal friend of Stanley Kubrick, this has been put back to probably the colour timing that it should have been. Now, the colour timing in here does match up with the previous Blu-ray and the previous DVD. This, for me, when I watched it, I felt that the picture quality on here, the sharpness, was absolutely amazing. You can see stuff in this movie that you can't see in the other versions. The skin textures, you can see everything in Alex's face at the start of the movie, whereas you can kind of see it on the other ones, but you can just see so much detail. As soon as I saw that scene, I thought, I'm in for a treat here. Now, the colours, I think, are the best the colours it can be. They're not super aggressive and super bright. So with the advent of HDR on this set, you do see the colours represented in their best possible way. I do think that there's much more detail to clothing. You can see much more colours in clothing. I can see that the Droogs cod pieces look a different colour than they did in the previous one. They look more like a pinky. I thought they were white. Because this movie was shot in the 70s, you can see certain colours in the sort of decor and the clothing that was there, in wigs that were all apparent. It seemed like every woman in this movie wore a wig. I've got to admit that this movie flew over for me. I've always thought that this movie is a long movie, but then this watch it didn't seem like a long movie. Plus, it's been long overdue. I've been really wanting to see this movie for a long time, but I've heard about the 4K coming, so I thought I'm going to wait till this 4K came, and I'm so glad I did. So I find the picture quality on here stunning, but bear in mind that this is how Stanley Kubrick wanted it to look. Now, if you judge this with the sort of latest blockbuster that's got all the colours of the rainbow, it's not going to look like that, but it wasn't intended to look like that in the first place. This movie is bleak and it needs to look bleak to a certain extent. If it was all warm colours and richness, it just wouldn't have the same impact to me. So I rate the picture quality in here as being 10 out of 10. So the sound quality in here is DTS Master Audio 5.1 Dolby Digital, and I watched it in that form and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I had no problems with it whatsoever. I thought the front and the back levels and the sort of surrounds, that they just worked really well. On my soundbar, I thought it came across really good. Also, it's got a mono soundtrack on here, which isn't on some of the Blu-rays. So if you get some more Stanley Kubrick movies down the line and you think, say for instance Barry Lyndon, it comes across a certain way, I'm sure with the help of his cinematographers and friends that he knew, they will put it across in the way that Stanley Kubrick would have wanted it to be seen. And also, if you go back to previous forms of it, you can see that it looks like that on all the other ones. It's not as if the DVD looks super bright or the Blu-ray looks super whatever. They all look the same, but this one is the same, but with that added level of HDR, which shows it really well in the dark scenes. And also the colours are brighter, but they're not going to be the usual bright that you get on your 4K sort of blockbusters from these days. So for me, this is a winner, and highly recommended in 4K. If you are a fan of Kubrick or a fan of Clockwork Orange, I suggest you get this 4K. I know it's out on the special edition. It's also out on a standard edition, which I'll get into in just a minute. And if you can get this one, I do suggest you get this one if you're a big fan like I am. It's got some great stuff inside. Like I say, on that video I've linked down below, you'll be able to see what is in this movie. So that's my impression on the actual movie itself. Now for extras, I'm going to have to read off this bit of paper that I've got down. On that set here, you get, now this is confusing to me because when I first saw a review of it, it was just a 2-disc version of this. Now this has got 3 discs in. Now the 2-disc one has the 4K and the Blu-ray, and you will get on that set, if you get the sort of standard one, you will get the features Malcolm McDowell Looks Back 10 minutes, Turning Like Clockwork 26 minutes, Still Ticking, The Return of A Clockwork Orange, Great Bolshoi Your Blockos 28 minutes, and the trailer and a commentary with Malcolm McDowell and Nick Redman. So that's what you get if you were getting just the standard edition of this. Now on this one you get a bonus disc, and it features Stanley Kubrick, A Life in Pictures, which is 2 hours and 22 minutes, and also Oh Lucky Malcolm, 1 hour 26 minutes. So for me, this does have this extra disc in it. Now if you've already got the standard version, you think, oh well, I'm missing out on this bonus disc, then fear not, oh my little brothers, because so on certain Blu-ray editions you can get the special features that's missing off your standard 4K on this disc. I hope this is making sense. And the bonus features is another on a bonus disc, which I'll show in a minute. So before I get into that, one of the big things that Clockwork Orange, the movie, misses out is the fact is in the book you kind of find out what the title A Clockwork Orange means. Now I've got the book here and I've got it to the page where you find out what it is. And if you remember in the movie, when Alex goes on his surprise visit to the house called home, and he does unspeakable acts in that house with his droogs, the man in the house is at a typewriter and he's actually writing a book, and the book was called A Clockwork Orange. Now this was never explained in the movie at all. I wish they got into it, because I'll tell you what I think about what this is all about. So in the film, when Alex goes into the house and kicks over the typewriter, this is actually what is on the typewriter, and this book goes into a little bit of detail about that. It's a book, I said. It's a book what you are writing. I made the old Golos very coarse. I have always had the strongest admiration for them that can write books. Then I looked at the top sheet, and there was the name, A Clockwork Orange, and I said, that's a fair gloopy title. Who ever heard of A Clockwork Orange? Then I read a Malenki bit out loud in a sort of very high type preaching Golos. The attempt to impose upon man a creature of growth and a capable of sweetness, to ooze juicily at the last round and bearded lips of God, to attempt to impose, I say, laws and conditions appropriate to a mechanical creation. Against this I raise my sword pen. Dim made the old lip music at that, and I had to smack myself. Then I started to tear up the sheets and scatter the bits over the floor. Now what I think in that whole bit was, the fact is that this fella who's writing this book is actually writing a book about Alex and the people who he's with and their sort of lives, and he's sort of trying to champion them, if you read a little bit more into the book, about the fact that he wanted to sort of bring to light that they were getting a rum deal. Now, sort of ironically enough, he was actually attacked by the people that he was trying to champion in this book. Now, I think that little bit should have been explored a little bit in the movie. I think it would have been great to sort of put into it to explain a little bit of what A Clockwork Orange meant. So if you're a big fan of A Clockwork Orange, the movie, you have to read the book. The book is so good. I can read it time and time again, and I get loads of stuff out of it. You can read this in probably a couple of days. It is so interesting, and it gives you a lot of flavours that the film doesn't sort of go across. But that's no slight on the film at all. The film is what it is. It's a masterpiece in my eyes, and the book itself is a masterpiece as well. So okay, here's my Clockwork Orange collection. It's not everything that's been released. I do plan on getting the 2 things that I haven't got, which is a bit mad to think that I'm going to get things that I have no need for, but I think I might get them cheap in a sale. So now I'll show you all the versions of A Clockwork Orange that I have. First of all, I would have had my 5th generation VHS copy that I got from France, but I don't think I've got that anymore. If I have got it, it's buried somewhere, so I haven't went and looked for that, but it was absolutely atrocious, and I was so pleased to get it on a better edition. So the first official release I got of A Clockwork Orange was this VHS, which is I'm going to say it's from Finland, and This cost £30, and this was the only way you could get in England a good version. Now it's got Finnish subtitles on it, and they are forced on it, but the picture quality in here, I've got to say, it looked really good. And if you're used to, like I was, used to watching this horrendous bootleg, then this was just such a fresh breath of air. So this version was released in 1990, and I think I got mine round about that time, maybe about 1992. I was so pleased to get this, because for a long time after this you couldn't see this, and this was the only way you could get to see it. It does play on my PAL VHS video recorder, which is absolutely brilliant as well. So that's A Clockwork Orange, or Kelopelli Appelsini by Stanley Kubrickin. Next up I have the US version on VHS. This was released in 1991. And I got this at a car boot sale for £6, I remember, and I was like, wow, I'll have to get this. So I can't play this at all on my VHS recorder because it doesn't support the same format, but that's just the way it goes. This is more just for collecting. Like I say, I've never played it, never will play it, but I'm just so glad to own this, because it's one of them ones where you see knocking about, and you just, when I see something with Stanley Kubrick, I know I have to get it. Next up is a Region 1 DVD. This was released in about 1999, and it doesn't have any special features on it at all. But it was a welcome update, and it is better than the VHS. Even, like I say, this movie's always looked good in every format I've owned, and I've got to say that for grain as well, I didn't have any problems with grain in all of these releases, and especially the 4K, I didn't find grainy at all. So that's the American DVD. Next up, I have the English DVD, the UK DVD, which is kind of more the same, and it has no extras on at all. These do feature the mono soundtrack as well. I do think that the orange is much brighter on here than it is on there. Now this hasn't been in the sun, this is just the way it is. And so I was very happy to get those two. I think it was because I heard that the picture quality on here was slightly better than the UK version. I think that's got to do with frame rates and stuff like that between Region 1 and Region 2. So next up is the UK 2-disc version of A Clockwork Orange. Now this was got because obviously it's got this extra disc in it, and on the extra disc you get some special features. Now you do get Oh Lucky Malcolm, which is one that you don't get on the new 4K standard edition, but more news on that in a minute. It's so this is the only way you would get that if it wasn't for the HMV exclusive, which I don't own. But if you want to get the discs that are missing on that 4K, the missing disc, it will be added to the third disc on the HMV Premium exclusive. So if you've got the 4K of the standard version and you want to get that missing disc, do get over and get that HMV exclusive. Then you'll have everything that's in that box set if you've missed out on the box set. But the box set itself has everything that's been released up to date with the special features on A Clockwork Orange. So of course, what did I have to do after that one? I had to get it on Blu-ray. So this is the Blu-ray update of that DVD, and like I say, I think it looks pretty good. But you don't get the mono soundtrack on the Blu-ray update, unfortunately. Not that I've ever listened to the Blu-ray, the mono soundtrack, if I'm honest. You get the same features, special features on there. This is all on one Blu-ray, as they were on two different discs on that one. But this one here doesn't feature the Stanley Kubrick A Life in Pictures. So this version here, which is the US special edition, I think it's the 40th anniversary edition. It's a major book, and it's a brilliant edition. This does feature the disc Stanley Kubrick Life in Pictures, and obviously Oh Lucky Malcolm as well. Now I think that this is the disc that you will find as a bonus disc on there. It's exactly the same. I've checked them out. You get the same disc, it just looks a bit different. So, and also on the third disc on the HMV exclusive is that disc. So that's how you can get, if you missed out on the special edition, that's how you will get everything that's on that version without having to sort of go to the scalpers to spend a massive amount of cash maybe down the line, when you don't have to, when you can buy the standard 4K and also the HMV Premium exclusive, and that's you done with a Clockwork Orange. You'll not get any more special features. There's a couple of things I noticed in this booklet which I thought were quite interesting, and I'll read them out here. It does say here, in the novel, the phrase "A Clockwork Orange" is explained in detail, whereas in the film it remains ambiguous and open to interpretation. In the novel, Alex kills a man in prison and is therefore chosen to undergo the experimental treatment of the Ludovico technique. In the film, he eagerly volunteers for it. In the novel, there are additional instances of violence inflicted by Alex and his droogs. Kubrick filmed them for the movie, but later decided to discard them. Now, I think when everybody knows when Kubrick does something and discards it, then it's gone. He will burn the negatives, so there's no way we can get that back. That would have been brilliant to find them bits out. I can imagine as a special feature that would be just exceptional, but I don't think those things exist, as he's burned all the negatives to everything that he's thrown away up till now that I know of. In the film, Alex sings "Singing in the Rain" while he assaults the Alexanders. In the novel, there is no song. Finally, and perhaps most significantly, whereas the film concludes with Alex indulging in wild fantasy, suggesting his return to wickedness, the novel follows Alex later into his life when he manages to overcome his violent urges and redeem the sins of his youth. This final chapter of the novel was left out of the American release, prompting Kubrick to base his adaptation on the truncated version against the wishes of Burgess. So there you go. So this is my views on A Clockwork Orange. I've got to say that I personally think this is the masterpiece. I think that this is the best version you're ever going to get. It has got everything in it. The special edition. If you go for the normal one, try and pick up the HMV exclusive, because to be honest, those two documentaries are absolutely brilliant, and you don't want to miss out on them if you want to see everything to do with it. Also, we've got that brilliant 2.5 hour documentary on Stanley Kubrick, which is amazing. So there you go. That's my thoughts on this stunning package, and I would like to sort of say it was one of my favourite ones that have been released this year. Been waiting so long for it, and I'm so glad to finally own it. So for me, this is the best version of the movie. I think this is what Stanley Kubrick intended this movie to look like, and for that, that's the best way that you can have it. I would like to think that all of the upcoming 4K releases of Stanley Kubrick's films will have the same look as they were intended to look. So thanks for watching. You take care, all my little brothers, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.